All right, so I know we've covered a lot of information so far, and you probably feel like overloaded with information, especially if you've gone through this quite quickly. That's understandable. It is a lot of information to gather, but if you just pay attention to the major muscle systems, the major muscle groups like pecs and biceps and triceps and deltoids, and where they connect, and that's going to give you a good understanding of when the arm moves and stuff and twists. You'll know kind of where those muscles should be or how those muscles should stretch because you know they're connecting points. And so really just focus on, when you're doing your exercises, is to memorize those connecting points. Don't worry, the figure is going to be a lot far simpler once we put the fat tissue, the ligaments, and skin and stuff on, when basically we're doing more of a surface anatomy, like how a human being looks normally when he's very defined, like Bruce Lee. That kind of muscle system is far easier to learn, but there's certain things you need to know with the underlying muscles for that to make complete sense. But there's a body map that's much easier to memorize and to apply to your figure drawings. And then just it's the major muscles you'll remember because you've gone through all this first. That knowledge is going to stick with you, and you're going to be like, oh, that's right. So this muscle connects here and here, and that's going to give it like this. Or if I want it more defined, then I know where to put those definition lines at. So I felt it was necessary with the forearm, because it's so complicated, to go through all the connecting points of all the different muscles. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go through how the arm looks from the front, side view, and so forth, the forearm that is, with all the muscles on it, but without, of course, the ligaments and fat tissue and so forth. Right, so we'll start with each muscle and work our way until we have this front view of the arm, and it's only the muscles that we can see that are visible to us. To save time, I'm not going to be telling you everywhere the muscles attach again because we already did that in the previous lesson. So if you have forgotten where the muscles attach, then just watch the previous lesson and get it down again. Or go back and forth between this lesson and that lesson to get it all down. Take your time with the forearms. They do take a while. So this is the brachial radialis, and that connects down here and up here to about the midway point of the humerus. And it's kind of like the remember you had the muscle between, from the side view, you had the muscle between your bicep and your tricep, and that was your brachialis. And so this attaches a little bit lower than that, and this is your brachioradialis. Now when the skin's on the figure, it all kind of blends together and looks kind of like one muscle structure that kind of comes between those and comes down around into the forearm. I'm using an eraser for some reason. So it starts up, connects up there. This is the part we can see. Comes like this. Comes down a little bit like that. Kind of has a shape like that. And then it kind of gets thin. And it runs down and connects over here like that to the wrist. You have a big tendon here. And some of the tendon you can see here that connects, it's still kind of stretching down this way a little bit. And then we'll add some highlight lines. Now we'll add some dark lines. I should add the dark lines first, but okay, there we go. So now we got our brachioradialis. That's the outermost muscle on the forearm. And this is with the pose, this is the thumb. So the hand is turned out, so the palm is facing us, the viewer. So just remember that the brachioradialis, the one that runs over to the thumb side, or is the muscle that runs over to the thumb side, and it's when you turn your palm down, you kind of see part of it at the top. And we'll go through different angles and stuff and see how that works, different dynamic poses and stuff. But it's just kind of remember that's the one that's moving along that side. That's it's laying across the bone that moves, and remember the bone that moves is the side attached to your thumb, right? And that's the radius, whereas the ulna is the one that makes your elbow, and it's on the pinky side of the forearm. Right, now the next muscle to learn would be the one on the very outside that connects to the same cartilage area, or not cartilage, the tendon area here. This outer part of the humerus bone. And from this angle, it looks quite thin. Comes and connects down here. kind of like this. And so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of memorize the muscles in groups. I think for me that makes it easier to memorize, and I'm hoping that for most people it'll work the same way. I'm going to put the tendons in here. That's where the muscles attach. We'll just have like one little highlight line here. So here's the two outer muscles. If you kind of memorize the outer muscles first, I think it just makes it easier to kind of memorize the rest. So the underside of the forearm looks kind of complicated, but when you learn it like this in groups, it kind of makes it easier. So the muscle that's grouped to this muscle then is going to start on this side with it attaching to pretty much the same area of the humerus bone. However, it's going to roll over and connect to the thumb side. Right? And this is the palmaris longus. So it's in connect right about here. Remember, it connects to this pointer finger here, or to that, that region, like so. We're going to put some tendons on there, and then we'll add some dark line here to separate it. So for me, it's easier to memorize these muscles if I kind of memorize it in these groups like this. Like these two muscles here, let me go back to red circle. These two muscles here are grouped together, and I think of them as a group. One connects to pinky, one connects to index finger. If you just kind of think about it as a group, I think it'll help you memorize the muscle group or structure in your mind. There's one more muscle I want to group with this, which is why I'm not having to do an exercise yet. This one's kind of thicker right here. And it kind of groups along with this muscle and stays pretty much right with it up until about here, then it kind of splits off to the thumb. We got the tendons here as well. All right, so this is the flexor carpi radialis longus, and it's running right next to the palmaris longus, which is what we just drew a second ago. Can't remember if I mentioned the name or not yet. So draw this dividing line here. Comes like that. Right, so there you go. So if you memorize these three as a chunk, and their connecting points are all the same, so they kind of think of them as a group since their connecting points are the same. And then you can think about them as, they connect here, here, and here, like that at the bottom. So it's like one group of muscles. And there even is one more muscle that you can group with this. You can either think about it grouped with this muscle or grouped with these muscles. It can kind of be thought of either way, and whatever works for you is what you're going to want to do. So we're going to start here. Remember, this one goes across here. This is the part of the muscle that makes that gap, that kind of ditch here, the dark ditch when there's skin and fat tissues on here. And it kind of runs down like this, and then we can't see some of it because it's going to be tucking underneath the muscle. Let's go ahead and shade it in really fast. Like that. I'm going to use black now to differentiate. Oh, come on. Use black now to differentiate. That's the only thing about the Cintiq is when you get to the edge, it gets a little inaccurate or feels different and takes some getting used to. Right, so now we can see a clear separation between those muscles. Now you can either think about this as a group or these two as a group. Either way, it's easier for you to memorize. For me, it's easier to memorize as there's four muscles that connect to this side of the humerus, and they all kind of fan out like this. They kind of have this fanning out effect. And for me, the under part, if I memorize the under part of the forearm like that, it's easier for me to memorize, so maybe that'll work for you too. And so that was the pronator teres that we just drew. Now there's a muscle that we can see that lies underneath all these muscles. I'm going to go ahead and draw this as a mid muscle. And it attaches way up here as well. And we're just going to draw the parts we can see. It comes down here like this, has this shape, comes down and connects, remember, as it connects right down here as we drew it last time. And this is the flexor digitorum superficialis, meaning that it's superficial, it's on the kind of on the outside, Remember, this is the one that branches out into wires or tendons, however you want to see it. And these tendons come out to each of these fingers. And remember, they wrap around above the other one. Remember, there's other wire systems going under here. And these are the ones that have the V's at the end like that. And there's another tendon that runs beneath, right underneath it like that. Kind of a cool design. Simple, but effective. Nature tends to work that way. Just kind of outline it in black so that it's clear it's a muscle. Right, and it's underneath those other muscles. So that's what the arm looks like from the front position. We haven't gotten to the hands yet. We'll deal with those separately as a separate entity. They really need to be learned as a separate entity, which is why I didn't include them in my other master figure course, because it was mainly just for the figure. Then I was gonna make a separate course for hands, feet, and head, and the head course it would be 20 hours long. So I'm like, well, I need to make a separate course for hands and feet. So I will cover the hands and the feet, the anatomy and stuff in this course, but it's not going to be like a full extensive course as if the course was just dedicated to hands and feet. But still, it's going to be conclusive and go through all the information that you need for understanding the anatomy of the hands and the feet, and of course the head. But if you want more information on the head, I really recommend getting my head course. Now, one thing we might want to do is draw this muscle here a little differently. It's kind of sticking out far, and it helps to think about the whole shape of the thing you're drawing to make sure you don't make this mistake like I did. That is, think about the whole shape of the forearm, that the forearm kind of has this shape like this, and they want to kind of fit it into that shape. It kind of helps too, maybe if you just make a quick guide layer like this here, and just kind of go, okay, so I know my muscles got to fit into this kind of shape here, and just kind of helps if you do it like that. That when we reproduce those muscles, it won't be as difficult, hopefully as difficult to do, to get them right in the right position. Right, so we'll start with the outer muscles again, and we'll start with the outermost muscle like we did last time on this side. The reason why first your exercise. So make sure you draw this whole thing here as an exercise. Draw it several times from reference. It might take you drawing this several times. Now you already drew it once from reference because you're drawing along with me, right? So if you've done that, then you've already drawn it once from reference. Now everyone has slightly different muscles too in this region, and they're going to be slightly pulled differently, but this is the basic way they look. You might even pull these over just a little bit more like that, so there's more of a curve right here, but this is pretty much how they look. Now you might want to rewind it and redraw again in order, and maybe even speed it up or something. I don't know if you have that ability to put it in fast forward mode or something. Although I don't know if you can draw that fast. I try to do it at a pace everyone can draw at. But at least you want to pause the video here and then draw it from reference. You're looking at it or another anatomy book or something. Just make sure the anatomy book is showing you the proper angle, the front angle. And draw these several times because it's kind of a complicated system to learn. That is the forearm. Once you feel confident in drawing it and it looks right from reference, that is, it looks like the reference you're looking at, then go ahead and draw it from memory the best you can. When you're drawing it from memory, don't cheat yourself because that's all you're doing is cheating yourself. So don't worry about the fact no one's going to, just know that no one's going to see it. It's your own personal journal thing. You can burn it if you want to when you're done drawing it. And it might not come out right, and you might get stuck and be like, what did that muscle look like again? I can't quite remember. I know that, there was like 4 on this side and 1 on that side, and they all kind of fanned out, but you might not remember the exact connection points and stuff like that. That's fine. Just do the best you can and try to work through it the best you can. And then, when you get really, really stuck and you just don't know absolutely what to draw because you can't remember, then go ahead and look at the reference again. Study the reference for about, a minute or so, and then don't look at the reference anymore and finish drawing it. Keep doing that until you don't have to look at the reference anymore because you don't get stuck anymore. You're able to draw it from your mind. This is such an important muscle group. It'll make a huge difference in your figures when you're drawing them, in the realism of your figures, especially if you're going to draw defined characters like Bruce Lee or a big muscle character, like Deathpool or Spider-Man or something that have a lot of definition in the forearms, and a lot of superheroes have that. And this is going to make that difference. People are going to see it and go, ooh, that looks cool. And you're going to be able to draw these awesome looking ripply muscles, and it's going to be anatomically correct. So take the time to master this. Now, when you move over here, you might find that it's still kind of difficult to draw on this side because it's weird to flip things around. I know I've gone through that a few times in this course. Right, so this, well, first we'll start with the brachyradialis, right? Remember, it connects way up here to the lower portion of the humerus, right in this area here, that area, oops, like that area. Whereas the brachialis goes and connects, more in this area, so like there and there, so, or there and there, they're like, get sidetracked sometimes. Just remember that this muscle kind of wraps around the other side of the bone, so that's why it appears to be thicker like that, because it wraps around the other side of the bone. That is, it wraps around like this. When we draw from the side view, you'll see that it wraps around the radialis a little bit. It has kind of a thickness like that. And make sure that if you're working in paper, to cover the other arm up with paper. If you're working in Photoshop, blow it up like I do and move it over till you can't see the arm, or cover that, put another layer and cover it with something so you can't see that arm at all. It's important that when you learn the muscles like this, that you don't cheat yourself. Don't look at any of the muscles that you drew before. Don't have nothing else visible that has muscles. Actually, I'm just going to draw those two, maybe one down there. There we go. Let's go and make a black line too. Come on, pick the black color this time. There we go. And the black lines are going to help us kind of learn the muscle map that we'll end up developing too. They're actually going to become, most of the muscle map will be those black lines. But it's going to be a little bit more simpler. It'll be more of a, sort of more of a surface thing. Right, so we'll do the same thing we did last time now. We know there's 4 muscles that connect to the other side, and they fan out. So the first one connects to pinky, like we learned, and then the second one connects to the index finger, the next one to the thumb, and then the next one over and around just kind of disappears outside of the arm from our view, from this view. Right, so let's go and start with the first one, which is quite a thin muscle. They all connect here to the outer part of the humerus. And draw them down like this. Connect somewhere to those carpary bones, like that. We'll try to separate it. You can think about it as like 1, 2, 3, 4 if you wanted to, or you can think about it as their names, but that's a little bit more boring. But if you want to memorize them, again, this is the flexor carpi ulnaris. Remember, because this is connecting on the ulnar side, the pinky side, whereas this one is connecting on the out. Oh man, I'm drawing on the wrong layer. Shoot. I'll just kind of erase some of that I drew. All right, now I'm going to go and merge it down with the layer below it. That way it's part of this outer muscle layer. Okay, then we got to draw the next one, which will connect to the pointer finger. And this is the palmaris longus. So it starts very thin, like this, like a wire actually, more like a wire than anything else. Connects up here as well. Make sure I do a little slightly bigger pin here. And then starts turning the muscle. And this one is thicker and gets thin very fast. Okay, so we have it like that. Let's go ahead and separate with black lines as well to make it easy to see. each muscle. And again, that was the palmaris longus. The next one connects to the thumb area, or just think about it as going to that region. And this is the flexor carpi radialis longus. And just knowing that it goes, and like you can even think about it as connecting right to the thumb if you wanted to. It doesn't really matter. The technicality here doesn't matter so much. It's that, hey, this connects here, this connects here, this connects here, and that's going to give you accuracy when the hands are turning and stuff like that. You'll know, okay, that muscle's kind of out of view because the thumb's facing down and things like that. Whoa, okay, my box just kind of fell down a little bit. And this will be the flexor carpi radialis longus. I'll do like I usually do. I'll draw it in red first. This one's kind of disappears. It's connecting, but it kind of disappears underneath the other muscle that goes across here. So we'll make it thin there. It gets kind of thick. Let's go ahead and make it thick here like so. And it comes down to a wire system down here. We'll go ahead and make this wire system come up. Let's go ahead and draw in our few lines here like this. And then we'll go ahead and do the black lines here. That way we can kind of separate these muscles. Another way you might want to think about the muscles here on the forearm is these two muscles, kind of think about these two as a group as well, and then these two as a group. That's another way you might think about it, and it might help when drawing it. And actually, I meant these two as a group right here. I gotta make this a little bit thicker. It's not quite thick enough. Like that. There we go. So you can think about those two as a group. All right, now what's left here is the pronator teres, or teres, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. And this muscle actually starts right next to this one here, where it connects, and see it overlaps the muscle right underneath it a little bit. Comes out to the side and kind of disappears. This helps create that V in here, the dip and the under part of the forearm. And we'll go ahead and separate with some black lines here as well. Right now, I still have to draw the under muscle. Now, notice with this one, I kind of pulled it over like I said. Remember I said it can either kind of come more lax like this, or it can kind of pull over more like this. Either way is fine. I prefer this look. I think it looks a little bit cooler. And when you're drawing your figure and stuff, I think just me personally, I like it better. So decide which one you like better and which one works for you. That's why I did both of them, so you can choose which one you like better. Right, now we're going to go ahead and draw this under muscle. And remember, the under muscle, you don't see much of it. You see a little bit over here. You see it kind of coming down here. You know, it splits out and does this thing here. But we're not going to worry about that right now. The wire system will do that when we get to the actual arm. And it's visible under here, like so. That's pretty much it, because it's not much to, we already went through where it attaches and all that. You don't need to memorize all that. That's not that important because it's not really a surface muscle. You only see a little bit of it, and there you go. All right, so that's how the forearms look from the front view. So again, it shouldn't take you as long through this exercise to master this front view here of the right arm. The reason why is because you already mastered the front view of the left arm. And it's just a mirror image of that, right? Just kind of doing that quickly because we're not, that's not the hand. We're not bothering learning the hand yet. So go ahead and draw this a few times for reference. If you prefer this side better, then I would redraw it that way on this side a couple times, just where you can kind of it's just that slight little change at these muscles right here. You just take these muscles and kind of pull them over like that. Oops, like that. That's the only change you're making. A slight change in the way the muscles look, but the same muscles are there and where they attach is the same. So go ahead and draw it a few times this side now from reference, and then draw it a few times from memory until you feel comfortable with it and you have a good idea of where the muscles attach. This is going to, like I said, going to make a big difference when you're drawing like arms in different positions. And like I said, we'll get into the dynamic positions and all that, which is the more fun part. But in order to get that fun, free part of drawing where you can just draw freely from your imagination and it's fun to draw poses and stuff and be able just to, flow all these lines and add the details where you want them, you have to learn this boring stuff first. Boring poses, just anatomy, where the muscles attach and how they look. It's learning all this first, knowing this information that makes the other part fun and easy because you have all this information to tap into in your brain and you're just like, yeah, when I draw the forearm, I know I'm going to be like, okay, if I have a certain pose where I can see the under part of the forearm, I might be able to see some of these muscles. I'm going to have like it's like you go, okay, I'll go make another layer so I can just delete it. It's like, yeah, I might have this under part of the forearm where you can kind of see, this muscle here and top part coming over like this. And I might be able to see, some of the detail here of this muscle kind of extending out like that. And then okay, cool, I might be able to see a little bit of maybe this muscle here, or maybe it's going to be kind of like this. And that's a little bit of a detail there. I might even show a little bit of detail there. And it's knowing how these muscles work that you can pick out the selective details that you want to show in the forearm drawing. And then you might even go, hey, I want to show a little bit of the crease of that arm there, with some detail like that. And this would of course come up and be like this, and you'll be able to see some of the elbow. Oops. Dang it, come on. And you might be able to see, some of the bicep like that, or even shorter rather, and then shoulder and stuff like this. So it's going to kind of, it's kind of like he's twisting his arm around like that. So you can kind of see, actually the elbow would be more like here, coming up, and then tricep, and then a little bit of bicep and so forth. So that's probably be the better angle to kind of view the form like that. But this is a quick idea. Again, we'll go into it more, and in better drawing detail when we do dynamic poses and stuff. All right, so the next view I think might be the best view to learn at this point is going to be the side view before we do the back view. And then we'll do the three-quarter views. Right, so from the side view, we actually do see the pronator teres a little bit. And we're going to see it just a little bit of it here poking out like this. Right, kind of gives us that bump from the side view, that inner bump from the side view. And then we go ahead and define that really quick. We'll just define it with some dark line for right now. Right, we're also going to be able to see a thin view of the flexor carpi radialis longus, and this is the one if you want to think about as connecting to the pointer finger. It's going to kind of overlap this muscle a little bit. It's going to run along a little bit, actually a little bit higher than the bone. And this bone, actually, let's make this thicker for right now, like this. And we'll come down with this one. I'll try to define this in just a second, hopefully. And it kind of disappears like that. Right now it's kind of hard to see the separation, but we'll draw the separation. So for right now, this is kind of a thicker muscle. At least it's appearing to be a thicker muscle for now. That one's thin. And then one of them will overlap a little bit, and this will be the brachyradialis. It's going to overlap a little bit. And remember, it attaches up here to the humerus bone. And it comes like this. And so remember, it almost looks like it's an outgrowth of the brachyialis. This is the brachyradialis, which looks like it's almost an outgrowth. And especially with the fat tissues on everything, it looks like an outgrowth of it. Almost looks like it's a continuation of the same muscle. So it's going to kind of overlap that a little bit. It's kind of thicker from the side view, which remember I told you that's why it looks like it wraps around that bone. And this is how you can kind of see why it does that. And for all intents and purposes, we're going to say it comes down here, connects to the thumb basically. It connects to like the little bones right before it, but for mechanically thinking as an artist, you can think about it as connecting to the thumb. because when the thumb turns over, this muscle turns over with it. It follows. I'm going to get a little bit closer here so I can make these lines, separation between these muscles, easier to see. All right, let's go ahead and draw a few detail lines there, some muscle fibers, so you know the direction the muscle fibers go in. Now the next muscle also connects to the humerus bone a little bit higher than all the other muscles that we learned before. And this one from the side view, you can think about this as like being coupled with this other muscle. You can think about this muscle, and this next muscle, the extensor carpi radialis longus, as all being kind of one muscle that kind of connect together. You can think about it as a group of muscles, kind of like we did for the front view. Now this muscle is not visible from the front view. It's visible from the side view. Right, so just think about connecting to the humerus bone a little bit lower than the brachyradialis, like so. And it just runs alongside and it pairs with this muscle, like so. And you can think about this coming down and connecting to the index finger as well. Like that. Like the wire connecting down there. And that will help you understand when the hand turns over and the palm faces down. It just kind of gives you an idea of how this muscle looks and what will happen to it. You can logically think about what will happen to it when the palm faces down. If this is connected to the humerus bone here, to the side of the humerus bone, from the side view, right? That's where it's connected to, that plane of the humerus bone, and to like the top of the index finger. Then when the palm is face down, this muscle, it has to come from the humerus bone, and it has to turn around. So it has, I know it's hard to, I'm like, look at my arm. So if you look at your arm for a second, imagine the outside of your arm. So your thumb, put your thumb facing, put your palms facing out, or, poke your thumb toward the ceiling so it's pointing at the ceiling. And so you have the outer part of your humerus bone, right? The one that's facing outside of you, facing away from your chest. And touch that and go, okay, so I have one muscle that's attached there. That's where it's attaching. It's running down along the outside of my forearm, or the side view of my forearm, and it's connecting to my index finger. So when I face my palm down, that muscle has to turn over, has to wrap all the way around, and it runs along the top now. It looks like the top of my forearm, and it's connecting to that index finger. And we'll get a better idea of that when we draw it from a couple different angles when we do our dynamic poses. We'll start doing that after we go through a simplification process. And everyone is going to develop probably a different simplification process over time. I'll give you one I'll give you either one or a couple that has worked for me. I've gone through one simplification process already in my Master Human Figure course. And there's many different ways you can simplify the figure, but whatever works for you is what works for you. Right, so from the side view, those are the main muscles you see, is those two main muscles. So if you can memorize those two muscles and know that there's, one other muscle, basically one other muscle here, you can kind of treat this all as one muscle because it kind of acts like one muscle from this view. But you also can see it as two muscles if you want. But just memorize there's two muscles here that kind of V out, and you can treat them as one lump of mass. There are just a few other muscles you can think about as being kind of grouped onto these, and so you go, okay, if I can see this and this, there's probably this other muscle I'm going to see, well, at least from the side view. There'll be one muscle kind of comes under here, and you'll be able to see, part of it right here connecting to basically like the top of the hand. But the one that we can definitely see is the extensor digitorum. And so if you remember what that one was from before, because that's here to the humerus bone, it's going to be very thin. So you're going to have this very thin muscle that kind of follows along this muscle here. That's what you want to think about. And it kind of branches off like this and connects out here, and it branches off and connects to the tops of the fingers. Let's go ahead and define it here so it makes it a little bit easier to see. And it kind of extends out like that. I'm going to use gray here, so hopefully this will make it a little bit easier to see as it comes out. There and there. Maybe throw a highlight in there. Right, so you can think about it should be actually much thinner than this muscle here. So actually that muscle should be even thicker now that I think about it. Let's just make it a little bit thicker here. This muscle should be a little bit thicker too, like that. And so yeah, you want to think about those muscles being a little bit thicker. Then that muscle's thin and it gets overlapped a little bit. You don't see much of it. Now there's another muscle you can kind of see a little bit of, and it comes right underneath here and connects out like that. And like I said, you don't see much of it, and it's really more of the wire part you see anyway. So I'm going to try to separate these. But all that's not important. What's important is that you have these two major muscles here, and you have this other muscle you can see here, and this other muscle basically you can treat as one muscle. It's the two muscles, but you can kind of see it as one muscle. So from the side view, you can kind of memorize it from a map. You have these two muscles like this. You have one more muscle here that comes down, and then you have one other thin muscle that comes out like that. And that's really what you're memorizing. That's the important part that's going to make a difference in your figures when you draw them. So the muscle you can kind of see that's poking out a little bit is the extensor carpi radialis brevis. And there's one of the muscles you might be able to see a little tiny bit of right here, as it's almost like it's connected to the elbow. And mainly you're going to see its tendon part. And this is the extensor digi minimi, basically. Minimi or minimi, I'm not sure how that's pronounced, but it looks like minimi with all eyes. And it's just going to go like this, and you're just going to see very, very little bit of it. And then some of it's going to turn into, what the heck happened to my thing? Okay, I don't know what the hell, my mouse just like flew out, and I don't know what happened to it. Oh, great. Okay, I must have actually hit some button or something. I gotta pause and figure this out. All right, I hit a button on this. I hit a button on the other side of my tablet that made my pen work on the other monitor instead of this monitor. So it's kind of like that. So you might be able to see a little bit more of that muscle. You might be able to see basically two little lines. But most likely, no matter how defined someone is, you're not gonna be able to see that with skin and everything on them. Right, so that's it from the side view. So again, the muscle map that we're going to end up developing and how you can kind of think about this is you're going to be like, okay, I have one muscle that's kind of big and gets small, and I have another muscle that's a little bit lower, but it connects to that muscle, and it comes down and kind of branches off like that. And then I have another muscle down here, and then I can see part of that one, and then I have two little thin muscles that are going to be right on the very edge of here. Like that. It's kind of hard to draw that small. And that's the main muscles you're going to memorize when you draw the form from that side view like that. And believe me, when we start getting to the dynamic views of drawing and twisting the arms and stuff, all this knowledge is going to pay off. You're going to be like, oh, I'm so glad I did that. Or maybe you didn't really do it, you're kind of lazy about it. And when you get to that point, you're going to be like, oh man, maybe I should have did all that because I'm not really understanding what he's talking about. That muscle's connected here and there, and so when the arm twists, you can logically think about it like this. I don't get the logic of it because you didn't memorize the connecting points, and so the logic part of it would be lost on you. So hopefully you're not lazy about this part. That's one thing I regret about learning art, is I was so lazy about it, and it really made a big difference in my performance. And I had to go and relearn it all anyway, so I wasted my time because by being lazy, that laziness wasted my time because I had to go back and relearn the stuff anyway. So really, all the learning I did by wasting my time really didn't amount to anything because I had to go back and relearn it anyway. Hopefully I'm trying to make that make sense. That basically spending all that time drawing and learning but being lazy about it was wasting my time because I didn't learn much. It didn't put much information in my brain to rely on when drawing the figure. If I would have taken that time to do the proper exercises and everything, then I would have learned information that was important to drawing him in figure. And it would have made my drawing that much better, that much faster. All right, so we had finished with the side view of the forearm muscles here. And go ahead and take the time to make sure you draw this a few times from reference, and then draw it a few times from memory, and try to think of some method that's going to help you memorize it. What works for me is to think about it, like I said, in the groups I think about it at. I have these two main groups here, and I know that these two groups, these two muscles, mainly this muscle here, that is the brachioradialis, is the one that when the arm turns over and the palm's down, if I think about the forearm, right, coming at me, if I had the forearm kind of coming at me like this, I think about this muscle as kind of being this top plane right here. Then I have the other muscle there, and that's this muscle that connects right next to it, but I know it starts connected to it, but then it kind of branches out like that. And so I think about these two muscles being linked together throughout the arm as I move the arm around in 3D space. So I think about these two muscles right here being connected as one unit. Then I think about these muscles here from the side view kind of be connected as one muscle. And then finally I go, okay, I got one, two that kind of fan out, and then I got two more little ones I can see on the side connected to that. So I just imagine four muscles, and there's two main ones are the ones I memorize and focus on the most. And I just go, oh, that's right, there's two little ones connected here, and there's like one connected here, or two if you want to think about it that way. That helps me, but come up with some method that will help you memorize how those muscles work. It'd be very helpful if you went ahead and drew it really quick from the other side view as well. And maybe I'll go ahead and do that because you're supposed to draw along with me as part of the course's guarantee. As its money back guarantee, you're supposed to be drawing along with me. At least, that's the least you're supposed to be doing. And you'll definitely see improvement if you at least do that. But if you don't do that, then I wouldn't expect to see much improvement at all. All right, so we'll draw again. So we'll draw these two muscles. That's the brachioradialis and the extensor carpi radialis longus. We're going to draw these two muscles together as if they're kind of like one unit. And the reason why we're going to do that is because for me, I think it helps learn the muscle a little bit better. And this is a good way to think about it. So we start with the first one, the brachioradialis. We know it connects up here to the femur bone, or not femur, to the humerus bone, sorry. And it's kind of comes like this, falls along this bone here. Also, you want to kind of keep in mind the overall structure of the arm here, and then we have a couple of muscles here like that. So just kind of keep that kind of shape of the arm in mind as you're drawing these muscles. It comes down and it gets thin, and then it kind of runs into a thin muscle and then into a wire system, basically, if you want to think about it that way. It kind of connects down there and up there. We'll go ahead and draw some form to it now. And drawing it, the opposite way helps put the 3D form fully in your mind. If you only draw it, only one way, that is facing the other way that we drew it, facing to our right, then when you twist the form around, you're not really learning the form as a whole, and so it makes it harder to kind of see the form in your mind as a 3D object. But when you draw it like this, and then from both angles, both sides, it helps put it in your mind better. So this one connects a little bit lower on the humerus bone. It stays flush with this muscle at first, and then it kind of starts branching off of it. So you can kind of think of it as one muscle that kind of branches off into two segments, as other ones that we drew have. That comes down and connects to that pointer finger. At least I think that's the easiest way to think about it. But the technical thing, just go back to the other lessons where I went through the technicality of this muscle, if you want to know exactly where the connection points are. I'm just going through the connection points that I memorized because it makes intuitive art sense, and it makes it, when you draw it, it works that way. Let's go ahead and draw some black lines to kind of define this muscle here. Right, so like that. Those are the two main muscles that I think you want to memorize. And all you have to do is go, okay, well, sometimes there's two other muscles that are visible here. You'll have this little, the little lump here that's visible sometimes, like so, and then a little wire muscle here, thin muscle like that. And then we know that we'll have two little muscles on the other side that are visible. And they're connecting more to like the elbow part of the ulna. They come down like that, kind of come to the top of the hand. One thin one and another thin one. This one's going to kind of disappear. Zoom in a little bit so we can separate those muscles. Like that, and there you have it. And that's pretty much all there is to memorizing the forearm, so just like that. And I'm not going to worry about putting too much black on this one because I haven't really drawn on the muscles on that side view there. All right, the next view we're going to go through it will be the back view. And from the back view, the first muscle we're going to draw is going to be the flexor carpi ulnaris, and that's the one that was like a V shape. It had two connecting points, one to like basically the elbow of the ulnar, and the other of the humerus bone. So I had two connecting points, one here and one right about here on the elbow. First I'll draw it in red though. So it kind of bends down. That's not red. Kind of bends down like this and follows along, comes down here to the carpi area, which is why it has carpi in the name. That is these little bones of the hand. Right, comes out, down, gets thin as it goes down, like that. But there's another part of this muscle that attaches to it, and that attaches up over here. And that's what gives us this V split of the muscle. Attaches to the pinky edge of the humerus bone when the palm is facing out toward us. When the palm is facing the same way we're looking, the same way our eyes are looking, that's when you have it like that. Let's go ahead and separate these to show that V. That's the direction of the fibers, just so you can kind of see that, there's no contradictions here in the fibers. They follow the way you would expect them to. So, right like that. And let's go ahead and add a little bit of the tendon, right like that. So from the backside, memorizing it this way, I think, is good. That this is all one muscle, so you don't have to imagine them that they're joined together. They actually are joined together. Right. So the next one to memorize from the back area is the extensor digitorum, and we before. This is the one that we drew before that had the lines come across like that, or rather, it was more like started from up here, went over, and then started from here, went over, and started from here, and went over like that. Right. So first thing is it connects up here to the thumb side when the palms are facing out. Palms are facing that way forward, the same way the person's looking, and so that means your thumb is here on the outside. And the thumb, remember the radius thumb, ulna, pinky. So it connects to the side of the humerus bone that is on the thumb side, the radius side, and it connects like this. It comes over this bone right here, right over the radius, like so. Let me fix up that I accidentally drew out a little bit, like that. And it comes down here and it kind of rolls over this part of the hand, the carpi part. It's a pretty big muscle, like so. And then it extends out to the think about the wires, basically the tendons. They act a lot like wires though. Comes over like that. Comes down, comes over, comes down, comes over. Like actually this one kind of rolls over here like that, sorry. Doesn't run up the pinky, it kind of rolls back over like that. Right, so it comes more like this. Anyway, it's hard to see from this far away, so we'll get more detail about the hand when we draw a hand up close as its own separate figure, which is how it should be treated, like its own separate figure. Let's do some fiber lines in here to show the direction of the fibers. And a couple white ones. I do those very lightly so they don't actually come out white. Show the shape of the muscle here. Now, if once you memorize this muscle right here and these two muscles, once you memorize these two muscles, you pretty much have this side of the back side of the forearm memorized. This muscle, once you have that memorized and where it places, where it goes on the arm, then it's just a matter of memorizing two more little muscles on each side of it. There's two strands on this side, two strands on this side, and that's pretty much the back of the arm except for the small little muscle that comes up right here. Anyway, we'll get into that in a second. First, let's get to those two small ones on each side of it. Right, so the two muscles on this right side, that is on the thumb side, is the extensor capri radialis brevis and the extensor capri radialis longus. So basically it's the brevis and the longus. The brevis is on the inside. It attaches right here to the same area. We just see a small part of it. It kind of comes out like this and attaches down under here. We've already gone through the exact placement of it. Now just think about it as attaching to the back of the hand, like near the knuckles or near the back of your hand right below the knuckles. So let's say these are the knuckles, just right here underneath this other muscle. And just imagine it attaching like that. If you kind of just imagine it attaching in that area, that's pretty much where it attaches anyway to this middle finger, but if you just kind of imagine it to attaching anywhere within that back palm of the hand, that's an easier way to do it. More general, it's easier to remember. So that when you want to draw from your imagination, it makes that much easier. You don't want to overload yourself with so much technical information. Unless you feel like your brain has no problem with all that, and then just go back a couple lessons where we went through each individual muscle and exactly where they attached, and you can memorize all that if your brain can do that. But you're going to be loading with so much information about art that it might be better to just go ahead and do it this way. This one attaches up here to the humerus bone, so it runs along like this. I don't want to cover up that muscle. All right, remember this is the extensor longus, the full name, the extensor capri radialis longus. And it just thinly runs along like that. And then it kind of disappears right about here because it tucks under. And you can just think about it attaching again to the back side of the hand. That way you know which way it's going to twist and turn. Right, and so this is what gives this side, when you draw the arm and you have your tricep and then you have this here, this is why you draw the arm like this. You have the elbow, and then this comes down further like that. So this is higher, so you have this slant here in the arm. It's because that muscle attaches longer, or attaches up higher on the bone, which is what gives you that look. I don't know why that's there. That's there from something. I don't know which layer it's on, but anyway, I think it's from a slightly part of a front muscle you might have been seeing, but anyway, it really shouldn't be there. All right, so that's that muscle. Let's go ahead and zoom in a bit here so we can differentiate these muscles. Right, like so. And then remember there's two muscles attached, just like there's two muscles on the outside, there's two muscles on the inside. If you memorize it that way, I think it's pretty easy to memorize what the back side of the form looks like when the thumb's turned out. This is basically kind of how then the top of your form looks when the palm's face down. It looks similar, but a lot of the muscles kind of twist when you turn your palm down, and we'll get into that. All right, and so this is starting with the one that's on the inside. This is going to be the extensor digiti minimi, and the one that connects right next to that is the extensor carpi ulnaris. All right, so let's go ahead and do the minimi first. Again, all these attach right here to this side of the humerus bone. This just follows right along with that muscle, and then it kind of branches out a little bit. And again, for artistic purposes, just think about attaching to the back side of the hand. And that's going to help you understand. That's the only level of detail you need to memorize in order to draw it accurately and the way it twists and turns. Again, see the previous lesson. I think it was 2 lessons back now. If you want to see how to, the exact area where, anatomically where things attach. If that's what you wanted to memorize. Okay, now let's draw the next muscle. It attaches right next to it. And again, it's a little bit thicker, but it follows the same S-like kind of curve here. And then have it kind of branch off and attaches to the back of the hand again. Just kind of imagine it attaching to the back of the hand. Go ahead and get this. Not very complicated when you break it down like this. It's even less complicated when we memorize it as a muscle map. The muscle map will be far simpler than this, but nonetheless, it's still worth memorizing this because, see, I was too busy. That muscle should stop a lot earlier. So it gives us this more of a look, and it's still not quite right. Let me go ahead and change it a little bit here. If you have Photoshop, you can use Puppet Warp to do this. Just put a selection around it, go to Puppet Warp, grab the things you don't want to move. This way you can move in the parts you want to move, like this here. And I just want to kind of make it a little bit thinner. Okay, so it's pretty close. Not quite, but I just don't want them to be too buff. I'm used to drawing like super buff guys, so. Right, so that's what it looks like from the back side. So basically you memorize it as you have this one big muscle, and if you know where that one big muscle goes, the digitorum, then you know you have two muscles here, one that connects to the humerus and comes down, thus giving this slant in the arm. And then, so two and two on each side. And then for this side, just remember you have this kind of V, one that attached to the elbow, one that attached to the opposite side. So basically when you look at the from the back side of the arm, and the palm's facing frontwards, and the back of the hand's facing backwards, that is, the thumb is facing out here, the pinky's facing in. Then you have one larger muscle here with two muscles on the outside of it, and one larger muscle on the other side which has a V on it. Each side of the humerus bone has muscles attached to it, and the elbow has a muscle attached to it. And if you think about it that way, it's kind of easy to memorize. All right, there's still one more muscle to go through though. All right, and this is the ansonius. Now, this muscle here kind of helps form the overall shape of the elbow. Now, the elbow should be a little bit more visible than it is right now, and like that, you should see a little bit more of the elbow where this is attaching to the top here, and then you have this shouldn't be attaching so much to it. It should be more like that. So it should be a lot more of the elbow showing. Okay, like that. Right now, this muscle here, that is the ansonius, kind of goes like, connects here, comes up like this, and kind of have it connecting right to the inner part of there. That should be on this layer. Like so, just a little small muscle, and it's going to help define the elbow basically. That's what it's going to do. When we put the skin on the body, this helps define around out this area here so that you have your nice little round elbow area. Okay, so that's it. The forearm from the back side is not too difficult. When you start to break down the forearm like this, and you think about it like this, it's a little bit easier to memorize, but still, try to go back now and draw this if you haven't drawn it, right? So try to draw this from memory and see how much of it you memorized. This is the underside when the front side when the thumb is facing outward. So remember you had the three main lines, and then you had your outside lines basically. And that's the main part to memorize is you have your three main lines and then you have your outside lines. So if you want to think about it as a pattern, you think about it as, you have your forearm here. Let's say you have your basic shape of the forearm that you drew. And then you're like, okay, so I need to put into this forearm, and you have the hand down here, I need to put into my forearm the actual shapes of the muscles. So, okay, I know I have one muscle, on the outside, and so let's go ahead and draw that, add a little bit of a line there, and I have three muscles coming inside. One that comes out that way, one that kind of comes more in the center, and then one that kind of, went close to that, But, because remember, they kind of have this fan out effect. If you remember that, fan out effect, okay, there, and then you have your one more muscle on this side that comes in. And if you think about it that way, and you memorize that, then when we get into the skin map, you'll see how much easier it is to memorize the skin map. The skin map won't take you very long at all to memorize if you've gone through all this work already. And then you're like, okay, well maybe I'll be able to see part of the cut here as it comes like this. Maybe I'll be able to see part of that cut of the muscle there. Depending on this as being like kind of the, remember the thumbs facing out. So we're viewing from the front view and the thumbs facing out, so the palms facing forward, which means you can see this indent here. So if we were to draw the bicep and shoulder, everything in here, maybe a little bit of the tricep back there, what we're going to see is this little dent right here, the little triangle dent that forms. And you might be able to see part of this muscle that comes off, and maybe a little bit of, oops, let's go ahead and kind of erase this down a little bit. Okay, so you're going to be able to see that little bit of that dent right here. Then you have the bicep, deltoid coming out, oops. Depends how much of it, you decide how much of it you're going to see, how big it's going to be. And then maybe see a little bit of this, and then this muscle is going to come out, come in. You might be able to see a little bit of that cut of that muscle there. This will come out. You might be able to see a little bit of the cut here, like this. So you might draw it something like that to represent the arm with all its fat tissues on it and stuff, and know what muscles you want to define or not define. Right, so something like that. It looks weird out of context if it's attached to a person. It's different. Take a photo of someone and just delete everything except for the arm. It's kind of weird looking. Right, so now we got the front view, the side view, and the back view. And when you do the side view too, just remember you have those two main muscles you can see, boom, boom in the center. So the front view, when the palm's facing toward us, you have the three main lines and two on the outside. You have the two lines from the side view and the two on the outside. You usually always have two muscles on the outside. So just remember, okay, I know I'm going to have like two muscles on the outside. And then in this case, you have the three muscles, or excuse me, the four muscles, the one big muscle, and then there's two on each side, and then the two muscles like that. So I'm just trying to think of like things that help me remember, and hopefully they'll help you remember too. Let's go ahead and draw all these muscles again really quickly from the other side to make sure we have it translate on both directions. That way we know we're memorizing the actual muscles. I'm not going to go through the names of the muscles again this time. There's no need, because I don't think it's important to memorize the names. If you want to memorize the names, you can do that with, I have them all there in the video, so you can memorize them. And I'll also have a download, well not download, it's part of the download. So remember let me get my thoughts here. Included with the download, you'll also have a file that has all of the muscle names and bone names. So basically a body map. So this comes down here, and for all, again, just imagine it connecting kind of like to the side of the wrist there. And then you have this one connected out here. And if you don't get caught up with names, just go, okay, this is the V-shaped muscle. Oops, it actually comes in much further than that and stops. Just think of it, okay, V-shaped muscle on this side, on the inside, the side of the pinky. It'll just make it that much easier to memorize. What should it did for me. Like that. And one of the reasons why sometimes it takes me a while to get a new course out is I take all my courses before I make them. And what that does is it lets me know whether or not I'm going to make it right. So I invent the course and how it should go. I take the course. Sometimes that makes me redo certain things like, it'd probably be better if I redid it like this. And so I can see the improvement that it makes on me. And then that way I know it works. Right, so there we go. So we have the V shape on that side, and then we go, okay, that's right. On the other side, starting here, and then each one extends out. I'm not going to worry about how they extend out and connect to each other. That's not important yet. We're not doing the hand right now, I don't want it to become confusing. I know kind of on this side of the elbow, connecting to the humerus bone, I have this bigger muscle on this side. I know this muscle is much larger. So I got the V shape on that side, and I have the large muscle on this side. That information is pretty easy to remember. There's not much information there to remember, so it shouldn't be that difficult. As a matter of fact, if you just want to stop and memorize this really quick, draw this a few times from memory and see how easy it is. It shouldn't be too difficult now to draw this part right here from memory. If you've been drawing along with me this whole time, then this part right here should be pretty easy to memorize. Then from this point, it's like, well, if you have that memorized already, then all you have to do is remember a little piece of information. There's two little muscles on this side, and there's two muscles on this side. One that is like very thin, and then one that comes up from up here. It starts way up here and comes down, and it's a little bit thicker, but not, and it kind of disappears. And that's it. That's just a little bit of information more to remember. It's not much. Like that. That's it. So I was checking to make sure the arms are about the same size. And so that's what gives it that look. And I'm still trying to fix this side. It still doesn't look how it's supposed to. This was supposed to have come in more like that. Grab this point, pull it in. There we go. It's supposed to have more of the look the other side has. Kind of like that. So basically the forearm is supposed to have, when it's just muscles, no fatty tissue on it at all, it's supposed to have this really, this look right here where it's like comes out a lot here. Make it with angles, out, and then down like that. So it's like out, down, so it's supposed to look more like that. All right, so you guys should be getting excited because we're about to get into what I consider the fun part. You know, once we finish with these muscles here and the muscles down here, we're saving the hands, head, and feet for later. Well, I don't know. I'm debating whether or not we should get into fun stuff, that is the human body dynamics and cool flows, and we'll just leave the hands and feet out of it. And then, you know, after we master the hands, feet, and head, then do a few more dynamic poses with the hands and feet. I'm not sure which way I want to do it yet, or if I want to go ahead and go through more of the anatomy kind of. I consider it more of the boring stuff to learn. I mean, it's interesting in its own way, but it's not fun. I don't know. It's kind of fun. I don't know. But anyway, what I find the most fun learning and also teaching is the actual dynamic stuff, the movement and, you know, body weight and transfer, and, you know, after we have the skin and fat tissue on it, we learn the basic body map, then we start posing. I find that to be the most fun, especially when you have all this information in your head. What you definitely don't want to do, and maybe you've already done it by the time you listen to me talking right now in this lesson, is you've skipped around and you started doing other lessons. I really don't recommend doing that. I really recommend starting from the beginning, going to the end. Okay, so next we will draw the forearm muscles from these diagonal views. All right, and this is going to go much faster because you should pretty much already have all this down, like where the muscles are and what they look like. So let's go ahead and I'm not going to name names or anything. We're just going to go through the muscles and think about them as shapes. So from the inside, when the again, to make it simple right now is we're keeping the pose the same every time. So the thumbs are still on the outside, right? Pinkies are on the inside. So we know the thumb's on the outside. So remember, what muscles from the underside, this is from the front view, from the underside, remember that's the side we had the three main muscles running over to the thumb. From the other side of the humerus bone that we can't really see from this view too well. It's like right here being covered a little bit. But we know it's there. So they all connect there and they come across. So we know that we have one that kind of comes over here like this. Because we're also kind of seeing a little bit of the side view. So we're incorporating two views. So we know we have that one muscle there. We have the next bigger muscle. And just so I don't get ahead of myself, what I'm talking about here is remember we had this muscle right here that comes across like that. The one that helps develop this this niche here, the little niche that we'll see when we add fat tissues and stuff. So that muscle comes across like that, disappears, and it's going to be hidden by the muscle comes up here, the brachioradialis, and that's just one that's easy to remember because you have the brachialis here and then the brachioradialis, so it's kind of more easy to memorize. Just kind of sticks with you, I guess. And that one comes out and over and in. And so I'm kind of showing how I think about this and how it relates in my head. And this comes down here. Just think about it as coming down to the side of the wrist there. That's the easiest way to think about where it attaches to. So now the exact attachment isn't all that important. What's important is that you know pretty much where they go. And as long as you know pretty much where they go, then everything is going to work out smoothly. That is, for drawing purposes, you don't have to get into such great detail. Now for, medical exam or something, yeah, you do, but we already went through the detail, the exact placement, so that part is there if you memorized it. But if you haven't memorized it, then all you have to do is memorize, okay, this goes to the wrist, to the side of the thumb, so if you have, let's go ahead and imagine the arm really quick here. So if you have your wrist here, or damn it, let's get a different color. All right, you have your arm coming down, forearm comes down to the wrist. This is the side your thumb's on. Then you have your hand. And that's a really big hand for that arm, but whatever. So this side here, we'll go and kind of make it 3D. So this top side here, that's the side that the thumb's on. That's what we're dealing with on that top part right there. And then this would be the side, right? This is the side plane here. And then so the thumb's here. We're dealing with this top plane right here that we can't really see from that front view. And that's this view right here. Okay, there's a much faster way I could have done that. Oh well. So remember, we're drawing this muscle right here. Bam, see how it connects here to this part right here of the wrist. So it's that then top part of the wrist. This muscle kind of comes across here and kind of stops. In fact, I'm going to change it just a little bit. We're going to make it to where it kind of comes, let's get the right color, where it kind of comes over this way a little bit more. Kind of like that. Then you have this bigger muscle. Sorry, I think I made this a little bit too thick. I'm going to kind of thin it out a little bit. There we go. All right, so now let's go ahead and get that bigger muscle there. Kind of gets thick like this. And it comes down to the bottom of the inside of the wrist by the thumb. And then there's a muscle underneath that muscle, but we won't get into that yet. Right now we're just going to do all these outer muscles first. All right, so this muscle here that we just drew, this is the flexor carpi radialis longus. Now remember, there's a longus and a brevis, right? Then there's a muscle goes underneath it, and that one is the flexor digitorum superficialis. And then remember that one I told you that the pronator teres right here that helps make the cuff or indent, not cuff, but the like little indent in the inside of your arm. We'll get to it when we draw the arm from certain views and stuff. The next one we're going to see that's on the outside of here. From this view, you're not going to see all of the three muscles that are attached. Remember from the front view, okay, there we go. You have these three muscles. Well, we're only going to be able to see, we're only able to see this muscle and this muscle here. We're going to barely be able to see any of this because it's turning away from us, right? All right, so we're going to see a little bit of that third muscle. That being the palmaris longus. So the palmaris longus is coming from here as well. And we just see like the side of it basically. It looks very thin from this angle. It comes down and it connects to the under part of the palm. That's all you have to think about is the fact that it connects to the under part of the palm and toward the center under part of the palm. That's kind of how you want to think about it. It helps you memorize it much easier that way. When you get into such specifics, that's when it starts getting difficult to memorize. kind of separating these muscles a little bit. And that muscle should, even from this angle, it should look a little bit thicker in this area right here. So I'm just thickening that up. Right, then you have the other digitorum type muscle, which is going underneath here, and we'll be able to see a little bit of it underneath and coming down that way. Okay, not that important because it's not something that makes a difference in when you draw the muscles and how they look. Right, we still have a couple outer muscles here that we're able to see though. Or rather, there's only one of the muscle we'll be able to see, and that's this one here. This is the extensor carpi radialis longus. So we're kind of seeing a little bit of it, but it's kind of turning away from us, so we're seeing the inside of it, and it looks more like a line. It's not nearly as thick because we're seeing the inside. Imagine if you had something that looked like this from the top view, right? Or let's think of something practical like a shoulder pad. A shoulder pad might kind of look like this, right? But when you view like this side of it, it kind of looks like this, and it's thin. And that's all you see. Right, so we're just seeing like the inside of that muscle there. And it comes down, it connects pretty much to the same place as the brachyradialis. But it kind of splits off from it a little bit. Connects like that more to the over to the different part of the thumb. So just imagine it as, kind of connecting to one, like each side of the thumb. Imagine the brachyradialis connecting to the inside of the thumb, like that, and this one connecting to the outside of the thumb. If you think about it like that, it makes it easy to memorize, and it's actually pretty accurate anyway. All right, so we have the separation of these muscles here. Just drawing some separation between some of those muscles. Right, so it looks like the 3/4 view is kind of a front view and side view meshed together. And so from this angle though, we're pretty much just seeing the inside view of the arm here. Right, so basically what we're going to see is remember there's 3 muscles, 1, 2, 3, and the 2 on the outside basically. So that's pretty much all we're going to see, but we're just seeing the bottoms of them. So we know one goes more to the middle here, like this, and it comes out to these things here. We'll call them like, they're tendons, but we can think of them as wires, because they kind of act like wires pulling, like pulleys. It acts like a pulley system. Okay, so we're just seeing part of that muscle. This was the big one. That's kind of in the center. Comes down like that. Shape it a little bit. Like that. And then we have one on the other side of it, kind of coming like this. And then we have one on this side. Coming down like that. And you should already kind of know how they look, so it's easy to draw one red thing and then separate the lines a little bit. Fibers all kind of run the same way. Zoom in a little bit here. Add the black lines. Finally, there's still a little bit of that very outside muscle you can see up there. Come on, pick red. There we go. That's that muscle right there. Just see a little bit of it. Okay, and then we'll see a little bit of, remember, when you have these 3 here, you have this outside one we drew, and then on the pinky side, you have this muscle here, this thin one, and it kind of connects to the pinky side. We're just going to see a little bit of that muscle, not much of it though. it's not even worth really putting fibers when they're that small. Yeah, there might be, one or two little strands in there, but it's not important. Under muscles, and then you have the under muscle, but that one's not important really. Well, I guess it's kind of important, but so what I messed up on, I meant to say that this muscle goes like this over here to the thumb side, and that's those three muscles follow it. So those remember these three main muscles here. This main one comes over to the thumb side, and then you have the two that kind of wrap like this around it. And that's what we're drawing here. So if that was, you're like going, wait a minute, that doesn't look right. That's why it didn't look right. I apologize. And then the underneath muscle, which is what I was drawing here. I kind of was just lumping them together in my mind. And so there we have it. That's that under muscle that goes like that. And that's the one that extends out to these extensors that split out. Oops, not there, just the fingers, not the thumb. All right, so that's how the muscles look like from the inside there. Now we'll see how they look like from the 3/4 outer view. So let's start with this one here. Remember we have the extensor, let me think about it. I think it's extensor carpi radialis longus. Right, so you're seeing mostly the back side of the arm here from this 3/4 view. And so the first muscle you're going to draw then is that extensor carpi radialis longus, and that's the one that attaches up here to the it catches the humerus, and it runs along the humerus like that and kind of rolls out like this, and it actually sticks out kind of far away from the bones because there's a couple of the muscles there. And for all extensive purposes, think about just coming in, attaching to the top of the hand, the part your knuckles are on, not the palm, but top, coming in like that. It's covered by other muscles a little bit. Then remember on this part of the humerus bone, remember the humerus bone kind of looks like this. This side of the humerus bone, you got your big muscle, and it kind of goes like that. Okay. This is the digitorum one, comes down. I'll call it digitorum for short. And then kind of splits off. It starts splitting off here. It kind of stays actually a little bit thicker than that. Like so. Then it starts splitting off into the tendons, your pulley systems. And you have like one going to the pinky, one going to each finger like that. And then they kind of come up. Oops. Up, up, up. And then this one actually kind of also comes back across more like that. Anyway, so there you go. Then you have here. Maybe you'll see a little bit of this tendon here coming across there. Let's go and draw some fiber details here. Since it's a thicker muscle, I might as well draw some couple white highlights. There we go. Just need to start with black this time. We'll just start separating these muscles. So remember from the back side, you have that one major muscle on this side of the arm, and you have two lines on the right and left side of it basically. So it's followed by the two, and there's another one here. And it follows the arm pretty well, and then that muscle, then it kind of does its own thing, kind of comes over here. And just think about coming and connecting. It goes under and connects over here, but we'll just think about connecting to the back of the hand. And that's it. And that's all you got to think about for that side so far. Two on the outside, and you have two on the inside. So if you know what part of the bones you'll be seeing by how the arm is twisted, you'll know what muscles you'll be seeing because you're learning where they attach. So remember, it's all still attaching to this inside of the humerus bone. On the right side, this is the elbow. It's on the right side of the elbow. That's where all those muscles are attached to that same area. I'm going to even use a size 1 brush for this. Zoom in here. I can separate the details a little better. Like that. So that covers that side of the arm. And then remember you have the Y shape muscle on the other side, or the V. Oh no, it's more of a Y. So it connects to the elbow. And also remember there's this little muscle that comes up here like that. Then you have it connects to the elbow. And again, this should, that shouldn't be there. It should be like, you should be able to see more. Let me see what something. Okay, so looks like the elbow's way over there. Wait a minute. I want to see the bone structure for a second. Okay, so elbow's like right about there. So you kind of can't see the other part of the humerus bone is over there. So it's going to connect behind over there where we can't really see. And it's going to come like this. And then the other Y connects to this part of the elbow. And it comes down like that. So you can't see the whole Y from this view, but kind of. Right, so we have that little thin muscle there. Then we have our Y muscle here. Right, that's it. So all the lines that you draw and muscles that you see in comic book characters will start to make sense to you when you memorize this information. Then you'll be able to go, oh, okay, yeah, so now when I want to draw the arm like this, I know where to drop my lines in to make it look like this really buff, ripped dude. And if, you want to get into comic book or character design stuff, that comes in pretty important. So now when you're doing it from the inside, when you're viewing the inside of the arm, because this is now we're viewing more of this side here, we're viewing the inside. Remember the thumb then is facing out that way, and this is pinky. So when we're viewing this inside of the arm, we know, the Y, right? The Y is on the inside of the arm when the thumb's facing out. So it connects here, and it connects here, and now we can really see that Y muscle. And if you care to call it by its technical name, that's fine. And if you want to call it by its technical name, that's the flexor capri, or I think it's pronounced capri anyway. It's the flexor capri ulnaris, but we're just going to call it the Y muscle because it's more practical, makes more sense to memorize it that way. Like that, and it comes down, connects like over here to the inside of the pinky side of the wrist. Think about the wrist as has different sides, right? You have your top side of the wrist, then you have your sides over here. Think about like you have this side, and if you draw it the other way, oops. Oh, come on. You have this side of the wrist over here. So you have the left and right side of the wrist. Let's say this is the thumb side, and this over here would be the pinky side. Then, of course, you have the top and then the bottom, the palm and the knuckle side. And if you think about, okay, I'm going to erase this the faster way. I don't know why I've been doing that with the eraser. Just go to Edit, Cut. Okay, so let's go back here, add some of our details. Right, so that's the Y on the inside. Then remember we can see other muscles on the opposite side. And what's the next muscle you remember you can see from the back side? The next muscle, remember, we can see what's the muscle attaches to the other side of this humerus bone, the main muscle that we learned. That is the flexor or the extensor digitorum. So we know it connects here and it comes down. It's the thicker muscle. And it comes all the way down and stays pretty thick. And then remember it branches out to all the fingers. Boom, 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 boom. And that's the one that has the, lines coming across it like that. Once we know the placement of that, so we know on the inner side of the humerus bone and elbow you have the Y, and the opposite side of that you have the flexor or the extensor digitorum, so it's the bigger muscle. And then once you know that, once you have that memorized, that's the hard part. Y goes on the inside, bigger muscle goes on the outside. That is, Y goes on the inside, connects to the inside of the humerus, and the digitorum, one that connects to the hand, the top side of the hand, connects to the outside. Once you have that memorized, everything else is pretty easy because then it's just a matter of going, oh yeah, okay, there's two connecting to this side. There's four of the muscles. There's two on the inside of here, and there's two on the outside. And from this view, we're only going to be able to see one of them. The other one's hidden from our view. And that's it. That's all there is to memorize. It's pretty simple. Well, it's not simple. It takes a while, actually. For me, at least. I didn't find it so simple, but I'm trying to make it as simple as possible, and I think this will really help you get it down much faster in a simple way. All right, so you have the two on the inside and outside that muscle. That's pretty much it. That's the major muscles you're going to see from that angle. Of course, there's one more muscle you'll see, and that's that thin one that wraps around the back side here. It kind of comes up and connects over there. So you have, two thin, odd muscles like that. That almost seem like they're out of place, kind of like just go in a weird way. That's on the outside by the elbow, the outer side of the elbow, and right here it kind of comes over like this inner side of the arm. Just remember that this little muscle here that goes like that is on the outer side of the I think of the outer side, the thumb side of your elbow. That's how to memorize it. So yeah, just memorize it like that, and you should be all right. It shouldn't be too difficult to master once you get to this point here that you've gone through all the more vigorous training and memorization. When you get to this stage here, it shouldn't be so hard to memorize all this and how it kind of works. And then you'll be able to draw forearms much easier from your imagination. And now, as an exercise, well, first after you draw everything you do with me, draw all these again several times from reference and then several times from memory. When you feel like you got a good grasp on the forearm, go and just start drawing some forearms, different angles. Go, okay, got my shoulder here, my bicep, and I'm going to have the forearm kind of coming out toward me like this. And then my hand, this will be the top side of the hand, my thumb will be there, fingers coming out like this. And imagine, okay, what happens? Okay, so I have that muscle here, the tricep, bicep, and so if I had the oh man. So if I have the brachialis here, then I'm going to have the brachyradialis coming right out of that. It like kind of grows right out of that muscle. And remember that one comes and it attaches. It's kind of thick here, and it comes and attaches over here to like the thumb area, this top part of the hand here. Not top part. This is the top part, but the side part of the hand that the thumb attached to. So if I were to draw the hand kind of like this, and then it comes out like this, and the thumb comes out of this part here, it's attaching to that part of the hand. So it basically attaches to the thumb is how you think about it. So it's coming out and it's attaching over here. And if I know that, it'll help me draw all the other muscles. Now I know, okay, there's another muscle that attaches right next to this, but this attaches more, it splits out after a second. So it comes out like this. It's kind of hard drawing far away like this. Let me go ahead and kind of erase some of this, make it a little smoother to draw. Use a size. Oh, I'm using a 1, no wonder. I'll use a size 3. Okay, so it comes out like that, connects over there. This one's coming out a little bit like so. And we know this one's going to connect to basically like the back side of the hand and more toward the thumb, the pointer finger, let's say. That is where it attaches anyway, is to the pointer finger. Well, to the inside of the actual hand part. You have the 3 bones out here that make up the finger. Then you have this big bone inside here that is before the knuckles. The knuckles are here, so it comes before the knuckles and attaches. So it kind of attaches more right there like that. So it's okay, cool. I know I have that. And then, well, what came after that? Well, what came after that? Attaching to the other side. We're kind of viewing somewhat of the top part of the hand here, or we're viewing the top part of the hand here, so we're kind of viewing a little bit of the top view of the arm, but not so much. You also have the inside of the arm that we're viewing as well. And so you're going to kind of have that notch that happens here, that little piece of shadow that happens in here. But first, let's go ahead, let's get into what else we might see out here. So we know that on the other side, the back part of the arm, if we could see it at all, you have that big muscle, that digitorum muscle that comes out. You have the 2 little muscles on each side of it, right? So are we going to be able to see any of that from this angle? And we know that we're probably going to be able, since we see the back part of the hand, we know that all those muscles attach to the back part of the hand. So we know we're going to be able to see at least some of it here, and it's going to kind of come out like that. This is it's kind of be closer to this muscle here. This is the part of the digitorum. We'll be able to see part of that muscle. And it's kind of thick, and remember, it's the one that splits off into little branches. And so we might be able to see a little bit of that muscle as it comes back and hides. And we might be able to see a little bit of the other little muscle on the other side of it, like that. Now what else can we see? Well, we can see some of the muscles from the inside. So remember we have, I forgot the name of it, so I'm looking it up real quick. Because I don't try to memorize the names of everything. I just know like how they look, and I kind of memorize them as what they do, the purpose they serve. And how I memorize this one, that I kind of hinted at it already right here, is I kind of think about it as it's called the pronator teres, but I think about it as the Y for this side. There's this muscle and this muscle, and it forms this Y. So I think about the shapes that are formed. There's a Y formed here, and then I think about the Y on the other side of the arm. And when I think about shapes that are formed, it just helps me memorize it better. I don't know, maybe it'll help you too. So if you want to think about it as shapes that are formed instead. And then, pecs will come off of there. So this muscle is going to kind of come around like that. Then I remember, okay, so on this inside here, there's this other muscle, and it kind of comes, I know it connects to the inside of the hand, so I can't see the inside of the hand, so I know it's going to disappear over there somewhere. And it kind of follows up here, and it's going to kind of go like that. And remember, there's three muscles that go together on the inside of the arm. There's one more muscle here. I might be able to see a little bit of it coming like this. Then I might be able to see a little bit of the other muscle on the outside over there. And then this part right here is all pretty much blank, except for that under muscle that comes and attaches in here. That's the other digit. So that's kind of like the muscles to form and how to think about it. And then from here, it's just a matter of, okay, well, what do I want to show to make it look all buff and everything. Now I have the form is coming out toward us. That's why it's getting bigger as it comes out toward us. We'd go, okay, I kind of just want to show a little bit of this. Maybe kind of hint at that and kind of rough like this. Show a little bit of the bicep. I want to show a little bit of this dent because I know there's going to be shadow here. We haven't gotten into the fat tissues and everything, so because of that, we can't get into total detail yet, but maybe I just want to show a little bit of the cut there. That muscle is an important muscle to show, and I might even show it with actual form. And kind of just a little bit like that. Kind of show this shape here coming out like this, coming in. I might even show just a little bit of a muscle here like that, and that muscle, a little bit of definition there. Maybe throw some hints at that one. This one I like a lot, so I'm gonna definitely throw some of that. Well, first let's get the outside shape here, like this. I might throw a little bit of the shapes for this here. I might show this right here as well, the detail. And then maybe a little bit of that muscle there. Then I'm going to show a little bit of this by, first let's have a little bit of a drop shadow by making this darker. Making that darker. Then I'll have some form shadow there. Make this darker and have all that be shadow. Then I might have a little bit of darkness in this area. Show a little bit of the form, like that, something like that. So I didn't draw in a separate layer like I wanted to, or I can just show all the other stuff being gone, but something like that, get the idea. So you can kind of get, and I might even change that, I don't really like that so much. So I might still show a little bit of this though, and then maybe a little bit of that part of that muscle going that way. Right, we haven't gotten the hands yet, so I'm not going to draw any details in the hands. And you get something like that, so you kind of, decide what muscles you want to show. And then you can look at inspiration from other comic artists and what muscles did they decide to show, and how did they decide, what part of the muscle did they decide to really show. And then you can look at, muscle magazines and stuff, and when someone flexes, what are the main muscles with all the fat tissue that show through. But knowing the underlying muscles that you're learning now is absolutely essential to drawing awesome characters. Right, so that covers the forearm. Again, take your time with the form. If you have to watch the lessons on the form a few times, then watch them a few times. And each time you watch it, draw along with me. It's going to improve you greatly. So if I had to get numbers, if you only watch it and that's it, you don't draw anything, you don't draw along with me, you just watch it like you're watching entertainment before bed, it's going to help you maybe a little bit. It might improve you by like 5 to 10%. It's not going to do much for you. But if you draw along with me every single time you watch a lesson, if you draw along with it, you're going to at least improve by 30 to 40, maybe even 50%, just by drawing along with me. That's not even doing the extra exercises I ask you to do. If you really, hardcore about it, you do all the exercises, you're going to improve so fast it's going to blow your mind. Right, so the next thing we'll do before we move on to either the hands and feet and head or the fat tissues for the body, I haven't decided what I think would be most beneficial to either learn the fat and skin tissues for the human body and ligaments and stuff before we get hands and feet. I think we should. We should kind of like master the human body first, and then master the hands and master the feet, because they're kind of like their own, or feet, not feet. I don't know what the heck just happened there. They're like their own figure unto themselves. It's kind of like mastering the hand. It's kind of like mastering the human figure. It's not quite as complicated, but it is like a less complicated figure, and it's like its own entity. And I think it should be treated that way. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to learn, after we learn the muscles of the lower leg, then we'll learn the skin and the fat tissue and the body map, and we'll have a good feel of the human figure at that point. And maybe we'll do a couple dynamic poses and then and some weight distribution and stuff like that. The simplification process, which is very important, and you'll probably end up eventually developing your own simplification process. I'll show you a few that work for me or have worked for me and worked for others. And you're going to see how you can just kind of simplify it because you understand the form itself. You know the bone structure. So it's like, okay, I don't need to draw the skeleton every single time. I can draw a stick figure and know what's being represented by that stick figure. And anyway, so, and then we'll get into the hands, and then we'll get into the feet, and then we'll get into the face. Now, of course, the face isn't going to be nearly as detailed. We'll get into the anatomy of the face, the muscles and stuff like that, but the face isn't going to be nearly as detailed as my 20-hour course on mastering heads. So don't expect like that out of it. You're not going to get a whole other course out of it, but you are going to get the basics of the face as far as anatomy goes, the head, the skull and the face as far as anatomy goes, and that's also included in the face video anyway. So I'm going to try to offer something a little different here, maybe a little more detail about the anatomy of the face than before. That's in the head course. But if you want to learn how to draw the head course, you want to master heads like drawing cartoon heads, all that, you want to get that course. That's not going to be included with this. It's that kind of information just can't fit in here. It'd be too big. All right, cool. So thanks for watching. And like I said, next lesson we'll get into the calf muscles. Calf muscles, the lower leg.